What's going on, guys? Adam here from TexasGarage, and this week I've been driving the 2021 Infiniti Q50. This is the Red Sport 400 and it's all-wheel drive. I've been having a lot of fun with it this week. Let's get into the review. All right, and before we get into this one specifically, let's touch on the other trims available. You have a Pure, which is the base, a Luxe, a Sensory, and this one, the Red Sport 400. Each of these trims are offered in both rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive configurations. What we're driving here is the all-wheel drive. So let's take a look at the exterior here. We'll take a look in the trunk. We'll take a look under the hood. We'll jump inside, take a look at the interior and the tech. We'll take it for a drive, and then we'll wrap up the video talking about price and competition. Let's get into it. All right, one thing you always have to hand it to Infiniti for is their exterior design. They definitely spend time sculpting the body all around to give it a really nice design, and that's no different here in the Q50. Now, the design hasn't really changed much in the last couple of years, so we're not going to touch on too much here, but let's start off with those LED headlights. They are multi-mode jeweled headlamps. You have LED daytime running lamps and LED fog lamps. You obviously have that Infiniti grille up front with the Infiniti badge proudly displayed. It is a blacked out grille, and around that grille is a piano black finishing, which really adds to the aggressiveness of this design. You can also see that hood there with these sculpted lines leading back into those side mirrors, and these side mirrors are carbon fiber, which really look cool here on this vehicle. Along the side here, you also have crescent shaped design that arcs towards the rear, giving this a sporty appearance from the side. Of course, for the Red Sport 400, we have unique 19-inch aluminum alloy wheels, and they do have a gray finishing on them that looks really good with this exterior color. We also have the Sport brakes with red painted calipers. Those are Sport 4-piston front calipers with 14 by 1.3 inch ventilated discs. And in the rear, you have 2-piston calipers with 13.8 by 0.8 inch ventilated discs there. Moving around the back, you do have a carbon fiber spoiler here. You also get LED tail lights and unique Red Sport 400 exhaust tips. And obviously you can see that Q50S badge and the all-wheel drive badge here on the back. All right, and while we are back here, let's take a look in the trunk here, which can be popped with a button here, a button on the remote, or a button inside. It has 13.5 cubic feet of cargo space, which is a decent amount for a sedan this size. Definitely has plenty of room for our camera gear. We also hauled some groceries in this thing as a family, which obviously is important if you're buying a Q50, but this is the Red Sport 400. What you really want to see is under the hood, so let's go check out under the hood. All right, and under the hood here is a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. It's definitely a really sweet setup. You're looking at 400 horsepower, 350 foot-pounds of torque, matched up to a 7-speed automatic transmission. Of course, that's with the Red Sport 400. All the other trims get 300 horsepower with 295 foot-pounds of torque, which is still a decent amount for a sedan in this class, but that 400, we're gonna feel it in just a minute when we take it for a drive. But before we do that, let's close up the hood, jump inside, and take a look at the interior and the tech. Then we'll start it up and get it going. All right, guys, so the interior in here, you might guess it, it's really nice. It is an Infiniti. We have semi-aniline white quilted leather seating, really nice. And we've got black matte carbon fiber finishing on the trim pieces, really nice. Everything else is black leather with red stitching. The rear seats are good for a sedan in this size class. The kids rode back there all week, no issues. You do get USB Type-C and USB Type-A charging back there, as well as your own AC and heat vents. If you are running 3 wide, there is a bump in the rear for the drive shaft, obviously. So whoever's in the middle either has to put their feet up on it or to each side of it. My youngest was riding in the middle while the 2 bigger kids on either side, and he complained a little bit about it, but wasn't a huge issue for the week. So the Q50 does have remote keyless entry. You can walk up to the door, grab it, it'll unlock. There's a button on it to lock it. The key fob right here is pretty nice. It's not your standard Nissan key fob with an Infiniti logo. It's kind of its own thing, which is good. I'm glad that Infiniti is getting their own stuff instead of having to use ones left over from Nissan. It is remote start, so you can start it from outside the car, and obviously lock, unlock, pop the trunk, and emergency buttons on there. But let's stop looking at my face here. Let's start looking at the interior bits, and I'll walk you around everything that we've got here from the driver's perspective. So one of those nice interior bits is a Bose 16 speaker premium audio system, and it does sound really well, as you would expect from a Bose system. You can see that carbon fiber trimming here in the door. You also have carbon fiber up here, and you can see some of the black leather and red stitching here above the glove box. As I said earlier, we do have remote start, so let's kick it on and we'll show you the rest of the technology in here. All right, and just like every other Infiniti, you do have the dual stack display. The top is an 8-inch display, the bottom is a 7-inch display. It's a decent system. I do wish you had more control over it. I would rather just have one large display with more control, but it is what it is. You can see on the side of the bottom display, you do have all your AC and heater controls. Down here, you can choose what you're using on the screen. So you can do the audio controls, the home menu, and your climate control. Further down here is all your radio settings and controls. These seats are heated seats, so you got your heated seat button here. And on the other side for the driver. Further down, you have a bit of a cubby here with an accessory port charger. There are no USBs in here. They're in the console, which we'll take a look at in just a second. You do get a normal gear shifter here. No electronic shifter in this vehicle. Further back, these are the controls here for your top screen. So your map, your cameras, and this does a little bit of different controls depending on what you're in. Further back still, this is your drive mode control. So up will shift up into different drive modes, and down will shift back down into different drive modes. We'll look at that as we take this thing for a drive. Of course, to the side of that, you have handy cup holders here, decent size for any cups. And finally, the center console here, it's a decent size. You do have USB Type-C and USB Type-A charging ports and an auxiliary port, as well as another accessory port here. Moving along to the steering wheel here, it is a leather wrap steering wheel, good in the hands. You got different controls for your radio functions to interface with your driver information display, for your cruise control and different settings like that. We'll get into some of that when we drive as well. Let's take a look at that driver information display. So it's definitely not the biggest display out there. It is pretty thin, sitting in between your analog gauges, but you can shuffle through your fuel economy, your range, warnings, service, tire pressure, and driving aids. All relatively good information. We don't have any kind of heads-up display, so everything that you're going to want to see is down here in the display. And like I mentioned, we do have a backup camera. We actually do have the 360 camera here. So we got the reverse camera and your full 360 view. You can change your camera views with that button I showed you earlier, which is always handy. And that's basically the gist of the interior. So now we're gonna turn it back off. I'm going to start it back up, give you guys a startup exhaust sound, and we're gonna take it for a drive. all week, but the Q50 that we're driving has the all-wheel drive system, and it's worked out really well. As you might imagine, the Q50 has really good driving dynamics. The steering feel is really on point. The acceleration is on point. There is a little bit of lag, and then it kind of pushes you, which if you're not expecting can be a little bit jarring, but if you are expecting it, can be a lot of fun. So again, we're on our little circuit road here. We're going to put it into Sport Plus. I'm not going to push it too hard because, again, the roads are nasty out, as you've probably seen in this video already. But we're going to see a little bit about what this thing can do. So let's get going. Definitely pushing it harder than I thought I would. It just grips and goes. No issues, even with these soaked streets. Yeah, as far as performance goes, no complaints with this. The Red Sport 400, good performance. And if you're not into the whole circuit driving and you just want straight line acceleration, let's test that out really quickly, see what a quick acceleration test will be. So we're on a bit of a straightaway here. We're in Sport Plus. I'm just in automatic mode. We're not even in manual mode. I'm just gonna grip the wheel, rip the gas, see what we get. Ready, set, go. Stop. 5.14 seconds, 0 to 60. I'm sure I butchered that a little bit, but pretty impressive. Of course, you can switch it out of Sport Plus. It's got a sport mode. You have a standard mode, an eco mode, and a snow mode. I've actually found that even the standard mode, that exhaust is pretty loud still. Maybe I'm just getting old, but loud exhaust in some of the vehicles like this, especially a sedan that you're just driving day to day, it's a bit annoying to me. I've found that putting it into eco mode is really the only way to drive it day to day without having that loud exhaust and really this thing just kicking you in the butt all the time. Which again, if you're buying the Red Sport 400, that's probably what you want. But for most of the week, I've been driving this thing in eco mode and turning it into Sport Plus when I really want to have some fun. And as far as fuel economy goes, you're looking at 19 miles per gallon city, 26 miles per gallon highway. That's with the all-wheel drive. If you're looking at the rear-wheel drive, those numbers are bumped up to 20 and 29. Decent numbers for this sedan. For the full week that I've had it, I've been averaging 21.4 miles to the gallon. Again, that's with pushing this car a little bit hard, leaving it idle as we do pictures and video sometimes. But like I said, I also have been driving it in eco mode all week. We do have good safety features here, which include predictive forward collision warning, which anticipates the road ahead. We have forward emergency braking, high beam assist, a blind spot warning, lane departure warning, backup collision intervention, and that 360 around view monitor, which we showed you already. That all-wheel drive system that's been keeping me safe all week is Infiniti's intelligent all-wheel drive. It can instantly adapt to changing conditions. Wheel spin, throttle, and speed are all monitored constantly. And you can push up to 50% of the available power to the front wheels for better traction. And when all-wheel drive isn't needed, the rear wheels can get 100% of the power for a more classic sports car feel. So you really can push this pretty well. It does feel like a sports sedan, but that all-wheel drive system is going to save you in instances like this where it's pretty nasty out, or if you push it a little bit too hard and it senses that wheel spin that it shouldn't have. But that also means if you're into drifting, donuts, or anything like that, this probably isn't the model that you want to get. But I assume most Infiniti buyers aren't really doing that. All right, and with that, let's find a place to pull over. We'll talk a little bit about the price of this vehicle, all the way from the base to what we're driving here, which is basically the top of the line. We'll talk a little bit about the competition, and then we'll wrap the video up. All right, guys, so let's talk really quickly about the price and competition. Then we'll wrap this video up. I'm sure it's long enough. First off, the base trim. The base price for the base trim is $36,600. Again, that's a 300 horsepower sport sedan. Pretty good pricing there, although you won't get all the bells and whistles that you get from this trim. If you are looking at the Red Sport 400 all-wheel drive, the base price on that is $57,750, and our tester here with a few extra options is $61,890. So just at $62,000, there is a bunch out there that competes with this, and quite frankly, all of them are really good. You have the Audi A4, you'd probably get one of the sport trims of that. The BMW 3 Series, you'd probably get one of the M packaged ones of that. You have the Lexus IS, the Mercedes C-Class. Again, you'd probably be looking at one of the sportier versions of that. Not all the way up to the AMG, because that's way above this, but one of the more sporty trims. And of course, a new kid on the block, the Genesis G70, which I haven't driven, but I've heard is really good and comparable to the Kia Stinger, just a lot more sophisticated, which the Kia Stinger is a really nice vehicle. So out of all those, would I recommend getting the Q50? I really like the design of the Q50. I think it looks really good. Compared to the competition, everything looks really good, just depending on your personal taste. Interior-wise, I think it looks and feels really nice throughout the interior. A lot of nice materials. Of course, if you're going with some of the more high-end vehicles, you are going to get nicer materials. Again, I haven't driven the new Genesis G70. I have been in the Genesis G90, which is a really nice vehicle. I just don't know how well that translates to the G70 until I get in it. My biggest hang-up with this is some of the tech. I'm not a huge fan of the dual screen displays. Some of the tech feels a bit older. You do get USB Type-C, you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is really nice. But sometimes even that can feel a bit clunky in this vehicle. Driving dynamics, I think this is spot on. You're gonna have to get something like the BMW or Audi to even compare with this. And that's saying a lot, as those are a bit more expensive of vehicles. So really my advice would be, if you like the tech in this vehicle, you like the way it looks, you get in it, like the way it drives, definitely worth the money. I probably would go check out that Genesis G70 before I pull the trigger on one of these, just because, again, it's kind of the new kid on the block, and they're doing a lot of good stuff over there at Genesis. But if you end up getting the Infiniti over that, no complaints there. With that, let's jump back out and finally wrap this video up. All right, guys, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, hit that thumbs up button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already and you like automotive reviews. Go check out TXGARAGE.com if you want more automotive reviews, news, and event coverage, all in written form by a lot of different great authors over there. And as always, thanks for watching.